Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Lesson 2 for our Spring Clean Week 2024. It's great to have you all back. You'll notice things look slightly different today. That's because we have a special demonstration for you later on in this lesson. First, we're going to start with the same sorts of questions that we ask at the start of every lesson to see where we are at, because it's always good to know what we know first before we move on. So the first question, how much do you know about litter and waste? What do you think are the most commonly littered items in Scotland? Have a think about the kinds of litter that you see around your school, around your communities, and let me know in the chat which you think are the most commonly littered items. We have quite a few things that people normally see. What is the most commonly littered item around your school? See lots of crisp packets, plastic bottles, you're right. Some places see lots of dog fouling too. Lots of crisp packets, plastic bags, cigarette butts, unfortunately, food wrappers, quite a lot of different types of litter. What have we got here? See if I can make that bigger. The most commonly littered items in Scotland, according to our surveys and from Zero Waste Scotland, are gum and gum wrappers. And we know that gum is very difficult to clean off of our streets. Cigarette butts and packaging, which some of you have noticed, have put in the chat. Drinks containers, so plastic bottles, coffee cups, all that sort of thing. Food and food packaging, and a category called other. Maybe these are things that aren't quite recognizable. Maybe they are bits of things, broken things. Next question is, how many brands do you think are responsible for half the litter found across the UK? Do you think it's 10? Put 2 hands up. Do you think it's around 25? Put 1 hand up. And if you think it's 50, put your hand on your head. So brands would be things like fast food places, or maybe different grocery stores, different takeaway outlets, drinks companies. How many of these do you think are produce the packaging that results in half of the litter found all across the UK? A lot of you saying either 25 or 50. Shall we find out? The answer, sadly, is actually only 10. That few number of companies are responsible for the packaging that results in half of the litter found across the UK. Remember, that's not just Scotland, that's the whole of the UK. Right. One more question. How much waste do you think each of us in Scotland produce every year? If you think it's around 200 kilograms, or let's see, around 138 Chromebooks each, put 2 hands up. You know, but the average Chromebook weighs about 1.45 kilograms. It's almost 1.5 kilograms. And you've probably used a Chromebook in the last week, so you know pretty much how heavy that feels. If you think it's around 450 kilograms or 310 Chromebooks each, put 1 hand up. You think it's more than that, around 650 kilograms or 448 Chromebooks each, put your hand on your head. And this is the amount of waste that we produce every year, not the amount of litter. So these numbers are much bigger. Think of all the things that go in your bin at home or at school, all the packaging that we use for the food that we eat or the products that we buy. All of that is waste because it can't be used again unless we upcycle it or reuse it for something else. So how much of that do you think each one of us produces? Quite an even spread amongst the answers so far. You're having a good think about this. I will let you know. The answer is around 450 kilos. That's a whole lot, isn't it? That's a lot of Chromebooks of litter, each person producing every single year. And I'm sure that there's a lot that we can do to reduce that number. Let's see, what have we got next? So today I have a special treat for you. We're going to do a live demonstration of an activity that we like to do sometimes live in schools, and one that is available as an activity on our website for you to do yourself in your school. It's called a bin bag autopsy. And it's basically, we're going to take a bin bag full of waste and we're going to examine the contents and ask some questions about where these things have come from. If you do this activity in your school, we're going to ask you to collect a bag of litter, but there are some things that we do not want you to pick up. First of all, we don't want you to pick up any broken glass or any sharp pieces of metal because you might cut yourself, and also they might slice through your bag and then the contents of your bag ends up all over the road again. So these things should only be picked up by an adult wearing cut-proof gloves. The second thing we don't want you to touch is anything to do with drugs or medication. So if you see any syringes, you can point them out to an adult, but don't touch them. The same thing goes with any tablets or pill packaging that you might find. Just leave it there. You can mark it on your survey, and we have a survey sheet that you can use in the resource folder that's been given to your teachers. But just don't touch those things because you don't know what they are. And the third thing is dog fouling. Now, obviously dog fouling needs to be cleaned up, but for this activity, we don't want to bring it inside and we don't want to mix it in with all of the stuff that we are going to be examining, because dog fouling can carry some pretty nasty diseases like toxocariasis, and we don't want any of that coming anywhere near our faces or our hands. It's important that you make sure that you never touch litter with your bare hands, that you use a litter picker. Now for this time, I'm going to use gloves because I'm inside and using a litter picker on camera would be very awkward. But when you do this in your school, I want you to use a litter picker and not your hands. And even so, we want you to wash your hands afterwards because, like I said, litter can be quite dirty and full of germs. This is what the sheet looks like in your resource folder. If you would like to have a go after, maybe sometime this week, you'd like to try this in your class or in your school. Okay, but I have got a nice big bag of litter for you right now. And let's have a go and see what's inside it, shall we? First things first, I am going to tie back my long hair because I don't want that getting in the way. So when you do this in school as well, if you have long hair, just tie it back. And I'm going to put on my gloves. Now, there's a few things that we're going to look for when we open this bag of litter. You'll notice all different types and all different places where this litter might have come from. Hold on. Here we go. So let's have a look. I'm going to turn there. I'm just going to do this. There we go. So you should be able to see the table. And I'm going to empty this lovely bag of litter. Now, I collected this from beside a burn near my house. So there's all kinds of things in here. My kids and I went and did our first spring clean of the year. And this is something that we're hoping that you'll be doing too as part of this lesson, is to go out and do a spring clean. Whoop, and tell us about it. Now, right away, you can see why I'm wearing gloves, because this is quite gross. Right, I'm just going to put the bag over here. And hopefully you can get a good view of all of this. And I'm just wondering if there are some things you're noticing right away about what I've found. Maybe put in the chat. I'm just going to turn the chat back on so I can see you. Have a look at what we've got here. And what do you notice right away? What are some of the things that you're seeing? So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to put these things in categories. Yeah, so you're seeing a lot of soft plastics, you're right. And a lot of something else. Oh, and a leaf. Don't need that. I'll put this aside. Okay, so can anyone suggest to me some categories that you think we should put these things in? I'm seeing some people are saying there's a lot of unhealthy food packaging, there's a lot of plastic, a lot of energy drinks, a lot of soft plastic, a lot of cans, yes, a lot of tins. And what could we have done with these tins instead of throwing them on the ground? There's a place they could have gone, you could have recycled a lot of this, you're right. Okay, so can anyone tell me some categories that you think that I could put these things in? When you do this in school, the first thing you do is think of some categories. Now, whatever categories you pick will depend on what you found. There's no right or wrong answer here, but we're just going to have a general category. So maybe I could start with putting the tins all in one spot, right? Let's put the tins all over here. Ooh, there's a squished one. Here's one that I probably shouldn't have included in this. This is the kind of thing that we don't want you to pick up because look how sharp that is. Okay, but that goes over there. Maybe plastics over here. Plastic, cardboard, and tins. Right, okay. So let's put tins all over here. Just trying to make sure you can still see what I'm doing. And I can tell you, for one thing, this does not smell good. This is not a pleasant pile of stuff to be around. It's dirty, it's wet. So none of this stuff should have been left in our environment. I'm pretty sure animals would not enjoy being anywhere near around this. I'm really not enjoying the smell here. Right, so okay, I've got tins and I've got plastic bottles. Well, where do you think something like this should go? What about something like that? That's plastic, right? Or what about that? Wonder what that is. Can anyone tell me what this thing is? Because all of these have something in common, maybe apart from this. So cardboard can go there. Here's something from the other category that we were talking about before, these little broken pieces. And I think what's happened here is something larger has probably been run over by a lawnmower, just like this. And that's what's resulted in these little pieces all over the place and stuff like this. Okay. Right. So we have our plastic bottles, we have this big other category, and we have tins. Now, in the other category, we have things like this and this. These are good examples. Okay, and this, I'm not sure how well you can see this, so I'm going to put it on top of this Starbucks cup so you can see it quite well there. Okay, baby wipes. Yep. So it's not a tea bag. It's actually, I'm going to take my glove off for a second so that I can look at the chat. It's actually what remains of a baby wipe. So where do we think a lot of this stuff has come from? Maybe all of it, actually. This can go in the other category as well. Where has all of this stuff come from? People, yes. Yes, absolutely. People, us, factories, yes. But you'll notice that a lot of this stuff, like you've said before, is snack packaging. Now, there is a school near where I picked this up. There's actually two schools. It's in between two schools. Here's another one. Right? And there's some businesses and some houses thrown from car window. Did a bin blow over? Yes. Well, I would like that to be the answer, but the really the answer is that people are buying snacks, basically, right? And then they are dropping them just where they've been walking. Now, this is a cigarette package, so there's one of the ones that you've said that you've been finding. And then we have also got, if I can find it, I made sure to include one because this is something that a lot of you are finding. And it's just gone walk. There it is. What about that? How many of you are finding these? And yes, I think some of this is from school pupils, but I think it's a lot of people. I mean, I don't think this has been dropped by a primary school pupil. At least I hope not. A lot of dog walkers nearby. There's a lot of people. It's a very popular path. And I think people are just missing the 3 bins that are there and are thinking, well, it's just one, right? Like remember yesterday with mouse, it's just one. It won't really matter. Maybe someone else will clean it up, but you know, one doesn't matter. And then of course, if everyone does that, we end up with this. And I'll tell you, this isn't even half of what we picked up. This is just what I could bring inside the office without causing too much smell and inconvenience to my colleagues. But how many of you are finding these? This thing here. Who knows what this is? Yeah, this is a single-use or a disposable vape, right? So we're unfortunately seeing a lot of these littered all over the place. If you were looking at our live lesson on disposable vapes and smoking health with Ash Scotland, you'll remember that this actually has a battery inside of it, and throwing that battery on the ground for it to get crushed by a car, or you can see where it's rusted here, this can actually start a fire in a bin, and it needs to be disposed of properly in something called the WEEE waste, which is waste electronic and electrical items. I'm not quite sure what that stands for actually, but it's a WEEE bin, and it's usually at your local amenity site, like where you go to pick up compost or where you drop off your recycling if you have too much. So this, thank you, Andrea, this needs to be put in a special bin, but it also has something in common with everything else in here, even these things here that we're not quite sure what category to put them in. What does everything on this table have in common? What do you think? People have thrown them on your school grounds too. Someone is saying yes. Unfortunately, we're seeing vapes littered pretty much everywhere. And we're very much looking forward to the ban on disposable vapes coming in very soon, because we hope that that will not only improve health, but will stop these being littered everywhere, because these are not, I mean, none of this is good, but these are particularly dangerous. It all has germs. That's right. That is one thing. What else do they all have in common? If you're thinking about how to stop litter being dropped, what does this all have in common? It could all be in a bin. Yes, it could all be in a bin. Yes, sometimes a recycling bin, sometimes another bin. They're all litter. Yes, they also have something else in common. What are they all made of? Even these. This is a trick question, see? Even these. What do they all have in them? Plastic. That's right. Every single item on this table is either made of or contains plastic. And the other thing that they all have in common is that they're all pretty much single use. Well, this obviously is multiple use, but only for a short time. Right? So this is marketed as being disposable, but it's made of plastic and lithium and all kinds of other materials that we really shouldn't be throwing in a landfill. These tins, a lot of them have a plastic coating on the inside. This coffee cup is an excellent example, because many people think these are made of paper, but actually they have waxy or plasticky coating on them to stop your coffee just melting the cup as soon as you try to drink it. These wipes, these are made of plastic as well. And remember, these should never go down the toilet, or they should always go in a bin. This is plastic. These sweetie wrappers are plastic. I don't know what that is, but it feels like nylon, which is also plastic. And these drinks boxes, a lot of people think these are paper too, but these are actually coated with plastic. Otherwise, the juice would just melt them. Okay? So if they're all single use and they're all plastic, the other thing they all have in common is they could have been avoided. So things like single-use drinks bottles, like this one, for example, we could have brought our own reusable bottle and filled it with juice or with water. Same with these. This could have been prevented by using a reusable drinks bottle. You could use washcloth for these, or reusable wipes, which are available. All of this packaging, there's a lot of unnecessary packaging that goes on when you're buying sweets and things. Oh, there's a tin. So, like, this looks like a salad. And if you pack your own lunch from home, you wouldn't need to buy something like that. So you could avoid a lot of this waste, which would in turn avoid a lot of litter. So when we're thinking about a litter problem, we really are also thinking about a waste problem, Because if we avoid using a lot of single-use things, we're not producing the waste in the first place. And really, those of you in primary school shouldn't be using some of these anyway. These are bad for you. But yes, a lot of this could be recycled. What else do you notice about this pile of stuff? I'm noticing a lot of snacks here, a lot of on-the-go stuff, right? A lot of leaves as well. It's very hard to pick up litter without getting at least some leaves. Yeah. So what should I do with all of this stuff? It's all dirty. Yes. What should I be doing with all of this stuff now that I've picked it up? What do you think I should be doing with all of this? Do you think I should just dump it all in a bin? That's right. What's going to happen with all of this is all of the plastics and all of the tins and as much of things like these that can be recycled, I will definitely recycle. This is all stuff that would take a long time to break down. That's right. This is all things that have been used for a very short period of time, maybe only once, but then they take many, sometimes hundreds of years to break down. We've found crisp packets that have been 50, 60 years old and they still look new. So this kind of plastic takes ages and ages to break down. It's not a natural thing. No bugs can eat it. It's made of foil and plastic. It's nothing that's going to disappear. And really, we should be avoiding this kind of packaging as much as possible. So one of the other things that you can do in your school, if you do this activity, is you can have a look at where things have been coming from. And you can take a map and plot on the map where things have probably been purchased from and see if there's any bins along the way, or if you know that some of the waste is coming from a local takeaway, for example, you could go to them and request to them, say, please, could you maybe change or use less packaging because a lot of it is ending up on our school grounds. Poster campaigns sometimes help, but finding out what the stuff is and where it's coming from can go a long way to getting rid of a litter problem, or at least making it a lot less. So some of these things, let's see, if you look for brand names, I know a lot of these will have come from the local co-op that is near the burn, but there's a brand there. There's Starbucks. There's also some of these are from Sainsbury's. And this is from the co-op, right? So perhaps places near your school would be willing to help you out with asking the council for larger bins, or they might be willing to do a litter pick with you, or they might be interested to know that some of their packaging is being thrown on the ground as litter. But all we've got for this, and just make sure that I tidy this up properly. I'm just going to shove this over here because I've got a couple more things to tell you. I'm going to take my gloves off, and I'm going to remember that even though I've worn gloves, don't touch my face with my hands until I have washed them, because ew. Right. You just sit back down here. I hope that you've enjoyed that. I really hope that you'll be able to do this activity in your school. And I hope that if you do this activity in your school, that you tell us about it, because we would love to hear all about the kinds of litter that you're finding and what you think about it. Now, if you don't want to get your hands into a pile of litter, I understand that some people think, that's not for me. That's okay, because the other thing you can do for Keep Scotland Beautiful to really, really help us out is to contribute data to our surveys. So it's an excellent citizen science project. We have a litter survey that you can do in your school or in your community. And the data that is produced from that goes to help our campaigns and our research about what the litter problem is like across Scotland. And the more people that we can have doing these litter surveys, the better our data is. So please have a look at the resource folder because there will be an example of our survey sheet in there and how to send the data in to us so that we can use it in our vital work to keep Scotland beautiful. Here's a reminder of the kinds of things that we would also like you to do this week. We've got lots of activities for you during our Spring Clean Week. Remember from yesterday, we were looking for you to adopt a place that you love and to do your litter pick there. So maybe this is a local park, or maybe it's part of your school grounds, or maybe it's a path like the place that I did my litter pick on. It's a favorite place for me to walk my dogs. So that is the place that I have decided I'm going to take care of. So pick a place that you really love and tell us about it. Do your litter pick, maybe do a litter survey and see what kinds of things that you find. Don't forget when you do your litter pick to tell us about it, because we have also our Litter League competition, which is a friendly competition for different local authority areas to see who can pick up the most bags of litter. Now, every bag counts. This got quite competitive last year. And I know that some local authorities are already off to a roaring start. So what we're looking for is when you organize your litter pick, count the number of bags that you pick up and send them in to us. There's a form that you can fill out. It's just, where you did your litter pick and how many bags. The local authority area that collects the most bags of litter will win bragging rights. It's called Spring Clean Glory, but they'll also win a pretty nifty looking trophy. So every bag counts. Make sure you get out there and pick up as many as you can. And you can do this as an individual as well, or with a youth group, as well as your school. One more project for you. If you'd like to create a short video about your litter journey, maybe a video about the litter pick that you're carrying out, or maybe tell us about the work that you're doing for eco-schools to combat a litter problem in your community. As long as your video is under 3 minutes, there's some more guidance in the folder, but we would love to hear from you about the work that you're doing. It's really important that we highlight the work that young people are doing to take on litter problems in Scotland, because the more volunteers that do the work, the smaller the problem looks, but that work is vitally important and we really want to know about it. And as always, you can say hello or you can share your work with us. We're on most social media platforms at KSB Scotland, and you can always email us at ecoschools@keepscotlandbeautiful.org. If you want to share your mouse drawings or share your Binbag Autopsy or anything that you're doing on litter or eco schools, we always love to hear from you. And also, if you have any questions this week about the kinds of things that we are learning, you can email them to us and we will do our best to get an answer to you, hopefully by Friday's assembly. So please feel free to email us. I'd like to thank you once again for joining us this morning. We always appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to learn with us. And I'm hoping that you can join us tomorrow too. But that's all we have time for today. So bye for now.